Zionism.
Weakness.
And that weakness. Fully weakness. Fully weak.
Zionism.
What are the signs of weakness? This is
First world problems.
Yeah. Like, just don't cry about that stuff anymore. Sometimes I see people talking about, like, self-help and self-care. Like, they're reading this book and it's 12 steps to be a greater hustler or whatever stupid cuck. And it's
Yeah.
always, it's like,
A la-
how are we
like-
still thinking about this?
A lack of awareness of
Yeah.
the real issues of the world and
Yeah.
a me focus in life. That's a weakness to me.
I'm actually reading one of those right now.
But
the
it's
self-help
different.
book.
It's like you aren't like posting about it on Instagram, you know? You aren't making a reel about, oh my god, I read this book and it changed my life. And now I'm gonna tell everyone how I'm different. Like, that's the bullshit that I don't fuck with.
I'm just trying to dominate that work.
None of these things are inherently wrong. It's just in
Yeah.
the context of how important are they to you, and are you taking? Is it an? Obviously, we all need to be improving ourselves on a personal level, but
Yeah.
for what reason? For the benefit of all?
Yeah.
Do you understand the bigger picture, or is it all just about?
Yeah.
It's for me, my ego to feed to surface level fixing.
Yeah.
You know, is it a deep? Nothing is inherently wrong. It's just what you do
Oh,
with
really,
it.
Cody?
and-
Oh yeah, we definitely.
Oh, no.
No, it's good, it's good.
This is how we like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we see how it goes.
Eventually, when it's the topic starts, then
Yeah.
then we just actually start the show.
The topic has started.
The topic-
Yeah. I was in grade 8 and I went to like a getaway school before, and then I went to Wampa Girls, you know, former Model C, aka only white people were allowed there. And they had a very nice library, and there was like this very small philosophy section right in the front of the library. And I don't know, I was always fascinated with, you know, cute little books. And then I found this one book and it was typewritten.
Right.
So you could like feel the indentations on the page, and I just really loved that. But it was the dialogues of Plato, and it's like Greek philosophy. And in there, Socrates, who this kind of is about, he writes that like you have to know your function as a human being. And the way that he describes it is like it has to be a function that serves other people. But in doing that thing, you serve yourself as well, because you feel like you are contributing and you're important. You serve a function within society.
That's the true meaning of we're all connected to each other.
Yeah.
That a lot of like sort of, or everything is connected to each other. That a lot of
Yeah.
pseudo-spiritual people love to throw around
Yeah.
without actually understanding what it means. What does it mean to be connected to each other and connected to earth and one with each other and one with the earth?
It means going to a side transport and taking MDMA.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah. That's what
Yeah.
it means. Okay.
You have to do mushrooms, do, you know, a heroic dose, and that's how you become connected to
Yeah.
everyone around you.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not about being each other's brothers' keepers.
No,
No, it's not about that.
no, because they're gonna do MD at the Side Trans Festival and ruin everybody's day. Like, that's always the case. But they became so enlightened from the Side Trans.
Psytrance just reminds me of
Nova Music
Zionists
Festival.
now. I mean, even prior to October 7th. But it just reminds me of extremist Jews and extremist Christians and extremist atheists and all the different factions of extremism.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. It's like almost like it comes with a sick fascist culture. I don't know how
Yeah.
or what the history is that is connecting trance or psytrance and this kind of culture, musical culture or festival culture with Israel and
Does
Israelis
Jad have
and
like a theory on
Zionists.
that?
I just think it's like a typical thing of like they stole something a bit more authentic and indigenous, like they do with everything. Because isn't like actually trance and stuff started in India from like and like typical fashion.
Yeah.
But also what it's become the culture obviously around trance and psytrance and festivals in general, let's say also, is excessive drug use
Yeah.
and excessive
and
drinking.
pseudo-enlightenment. Like
And
drug use in the
pseudo-enlightenment.
pursuit
And
of
this
self.
is very much, if you're paying attention, the culture within Israeli society. Within Western society, you can go further. Within individualistic society.
Yeah.
Because you're living a life so devoid of anything that you have to fill it up.
And to derive meaning, you have to do drugs.
Yeah, a lot of people can fall in this trap. I'm sure some of us have fallen in this trap, maybe in the past.
Yeah.
But it's very much an individualistic Western culture, and it's very prevalent with, in my personal experience, being South African, I've been exposed to Israelis, unfortunately. And every single time I've met one or knew of one or, saw them from across the bush, they were usually alcoholics, drug addicts, but fully functioning. Not like they're not in the street, homeless. They're functioning. They're usually wealthy and they are super into partying. Their life revolves around party, and alcohol and drugs comes with that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's not specific and unique to Israelis, but it happens to be that I see it a lot in that community.
The Psytrance obsession really freaks me out. Like, did you see the memorial that they have for the 7th of October? Where they
literally played the song that was playing when our
Nova.
brave resistance fighters broke out of a concentration camp.
Yeah. They played the song
for the
as
first day, opening the first day of the
paragliders were
liberation
coming.
struggle. And they played the song that was playing, the Psytrance song that sounds like every other freaking song. Oh, sound.
Yeah. But what was crazy was they played it at the memorial. Like,
And they were crying.
yeah, they wiping their tears away.
And
Let
this,
the bass drop.
And it's almost like they.
No,
We're not exaggerating.
I'm
That's
not
exactly.
I'm not even. It's not a joke.
I think
That's
I looked
literally
at
what
the
it
video
was.
5 times over and over, laughing, crying.
Yeah.
And not once
Yeah.
did I think, wow, am I being insensitive? I said, no, I'm going to laugh and I'm going to laugh till I fall asleep.
Who sponsored that event, Smirnoff?
Did you just see they had like a I don't know if it came out already, but there was like meant to be the Novatrans documentary.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I think it came out.
Yeah.
We should watch that.
I'm scared too.
With some popcorn and just laugh. But we have to be in a proper mood.
There were also these
watch that.
these Israeli this dance crew. They were like, we're gonna dance on the grounds of the Nova Music Festival. We're taking it back. We're taking it back. After we stole the land, we're gonna take it again.
So we can have festivals.
Yeah. And then they did this like really embarrassing dance, and the bitch was wearing like a corset with the Israeli flag on it. I think, never this. Never this. Not absolutely ever.
Oh my goodness.
But
why do
no.
they have bad taste? Why
That's
do why do fascists have bad taste?
Yeah, like look at the apartheid flag.
No,
like
where's the
that was so bad
aesthetics?
also.
Speaking of flags, why did Israel never try and at least just try and fit in with the color scheme of the flags of West Asia and the Middle East? You know, the red, the greens, the
No.
whites. They
Because
came in there white, blue.
The red and the green.
They're like,
and
we're gonna stand out.
the red is for the blood we shed. The green is for
they
the
don't
land.
have right. So if within their Greater Israel Expansionist project, they're obviously going to would they get rid of all these flags and
Blue
change
is
them
like
to their blue colors?
It's like a
different shades of
colonialist
blue?
color, though. It
I know,
is a
I
colonialist
know I'm
color.
wearing blue right now, ironically.
It's not the same type
But
of
you know
blue,
what?
it's
I want to
alright.
reclaim these colors because for a while I felt like, I'm not even joking right now, I would look at like blue
Yeah.
and I'd be like, huh.
Yeah, yeah,
But you know what? I actually really love those colors. Blue is one of my favorite colors. I'm going to reclaim these. We should reclaim these colors.
yeah. But for real, so they did like
They
a whole
even steal
dance.
colors.
They did a whole dance on the grounds of Nova Music Festival, and let me just say, Nova Music Festival.
What does
2
Nova
weeks.
mean?
Isn't it like star in Nova, like supernova?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. So they keep saying that this was like a festival of peace.
Right. Outside a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is, like, it was moved 2 weeks before, and it was placed like right in front of the first like watchtower for Gaza, the first like
deliberately.
Yeah,
Who were the
military base.
organizers? I remember in the beginning after October 7th, I was looking into that.
Yeah.
Which everything feels like a blur
Yeah.
sometimes. And so much has happened and so much is happening fast. And like we say a lot to each other, sometimes we feel like we're in a dream.
Yeah.
And it's
Time moves in a very
But
weird
at the
way.
same time, I feel more aware of reality. And everything is getting realer and realer and realer.
Yeah. I
And-
become very like sensitive to the changes.
Yeah.
Like I feel it.
Yeah, extremely.
Yeah.
And I see how some people that are more disconnected from what's going on, but they still have this weird feeling. They keep feeling like the walls are closing in on them, or they feel like they're in a dream and everything's weird and nothing's making sense, but they don't really understand why. Wherein I could feel the same way, but I actually understand why,
Yeah.
which makes me feel more
Yeah.
at ease, and my mental health, I guess, doesn't suffer as much because I actually understand
Yeah.
why everything feels strange, because
Yeah.
it is. It is strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should put some of that in.
No, so we have Taahirah and Sanaa together. Taahirah asked if Sanaa and her could come together for a conversation.
Hello.
To introduce Sanaa. She is from Lebanon
Let's introduce.
It's complicated though.
and listen to the valuable conversation.
Let's go.
Hi.
Hi, Sana.
Hi, T.
Hi. Well, good.
The questions that you want to ask.
Sana, where are you from?
I'm kind of from two places at once.
Mm-hmm.
Just a typical story of an immigrant family. I was born and raised here in South Africa in Cape Town, but I'm originally Lebanese, and I had moved back to Lebanon. We used to go sort of in and out in my childhood, but I moved back to Lebanon in 2019 and was living there for, I don't know, how many years? Was it 4 years before this
Yeah.
broke out?
I think like one of my favorite things that you told me is how you would take road trips to Syria. And
Yes.
it's like just in the
That's
space
some of
of a
my
day.
favorite. This is pre the Syrian war, pre the attack of most of the world on humble, noble people and the lovely people of Syria before the
Yeah.
NATO war was waged on them. And I have such good memories. We would go to Lebanon and to visit, and I'm from a town in Lebanon that's relatively close to the Syrian border in the north. And I'm, very connected to Syria. And I mean, we're basically the same people.
Do you have family in Syria?
I have family in Syria. And we used to go, that's why we would go. We would go visit the family in
so
Syria.
cool.
Although many Lebanese would sort of go, because you can just drive in, would go even if they didn't maybe have family there.
This is a long drive. I mean, she is a border, but
3. It's weird because I don't remember how long the drive would be when I was younger, but I remember what the drive was in 2019
Yeah.
because I went again in 2019. But the drive into Syria after the war, let's say during the war, is completely different to pre-war. I'm assuming, and kind of based on some memory,
Yeah.
because when we went in 2019, it's probably in a normal drive would be maximum 2 hours, hour and a half, but because there's so much heightened security and checkpoints that feel never ending, constant, every 10, 20 minutes, once you're in Syria, I mean, once you've crossed the border,
yeah.
actually in Lebanon too, but mainly once you're in Syria, is a checkpoint. So you have military, army, and every checkpoint they stop you, and you have to show them your passport, and you have to show them, but it's like super heightened security. I'm sure it's like that in many areas that you cross, but I felt like it was intense because there's people that.
Where is this?
This is driving from north of Lebanon into Syria, because they need to. I mean, there's forces that are nefarious that act in the region, and you need to have. And the whole of Lebanon is like that. Like there's military checkpoints everywhere, and you can just get stopped.
Yeah.
And usually it's fine. You just wave, hi. You drive
Yeah,
in.
that was something that kind of it was weird being in the Middle East and like being
You
stopped
feel
by
watched a lot. You feel
very much that. But being stopped by soldiers in the Middle East, like it felt a little bit different.
Yeah.
In South Africa, if I'm approached by the police or there's some security looking person, there's like hesitation.
Were you in the Middle East too?
Yeah, like a few months ago. But it was weird, like especially in Jordan, in Aqaba, there's that the route that goes to Saudi, and there's like it's lots of trucks and stuff. And then there were a couple of like checkpoints there, and you had to show your stuff. But they're so nice.
Yeah.
Like everyone's very friendly.
Yeah.
It didn't feel.
I mean, if you're not doing
Weird.
anything negative, or you're not a foreign entity or a terroristic
Yeah.
person wanting to commit a terroristic act, there's no problem. But there's a lot of bribery going on. Like you have to bribe your way through, and you could call it corruption.
Yeah.
Or you could call it people are suffering and there's an economic siege and sanctions on them and
Yeah.
people aren't being paid properly and they can't afford life, so they have to find alternative ways to make money. You could maybe understand the context of why there's a lot of pay me a little bit of this and I'll
But what's
let you
crazy about
through.
it, like,
you know.
when I came back, Sadiq asked me, like, what was like the service like the customer service, and it was like a weird question because I never thought, I never even thought of the people that were serving me in any way, like Uber drivers or people working at a restaurant.
Right.
I never considered them to be service workers,
Right.
because they are so, like, everyone's so friendly,
Yes.
everyone's so nice, and you end up becoming friends with like everyone that you
Everyone's
meet.
extremely talkative.
Yeah.
In Lebanon, especially, they're just so, and they're very open to foreigners. And you know, this is something I understood, but it was so cool to hear. A friend of mine I met in Lebanon, she's American, and she pointed out to me, she said, you know, the Lebanese people really understand that the Americans or the Western people, the foreigners that come to this country, aren't necessarily their government. And she said, I can really feel that here. Like, they obviously dislike and they understand what that government, the empire, has done to them and their country and the region.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily, majority of them, like the everyday person, they're not going to take it out. They're so lovely even to
Yeah.
Americans.
Do you
To
think-
Syria also.
do you think there's
where
like-
compare how brown people and Arabs or Muslims are often treated when you go to America. They're like, you're terrorists, and it's based on lies. Like, do you know? So she pointed that out even to me, and coming from her was really cool to hear. Like, her.
Do you
say
think
that.
there's like there's a need to present like the best version of
Yes.
Arab so that it counters the narrative?
I don't know if it's about countering the narrative. It's just a cultural. It's in the culture. Like it's aib, like shameful if you treat what do you call it? A stranger or not a stranger? A guest.
Yeah.
Whether it's because you're a guest in the country and or you're
Yes.
in the home.
Yeah.
It's like shameful if you treat them in a bad way. You have to behave. You offer anything.
Yeah.
You're super generous. It's just our culture.
And that was also the generosity. It doesn't even feel like people are doing it consciously. Like it's not even I need to be generous, so I'm going to be generous. It's like it's just second nature.
Yeah.
It's
What
like
I
I'm just going to
exper-
give
I
this
ex-
to you, and if you look at me weird, it's like, why
It's
aren't
almost
you taking
rude
it?
if you don't take it.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I experienced, especially because when I was going back in 2019, I hadn't seen my family since I was little, and I like complimented my uncle's jacket.
Yeah.
Take it, and I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like, keep it,
It's so
please.
sweet.
You need it. I'm fine. He's like, he insisted
For real, I came home with so
that
many
I
free
take,
things.
and then I knew this already, obviously, about my people, but I had been disconnected for a while, and it's not like being in South Africa. It's not like you grow up completely in an individualistic society. It's complex here. There's a lot of community-based stuff too.
But
So
yeah.
it wasn't that much of a I wasn't growing up in the Western world really, but it was so overwhelming, and I cried so much. Like at some point, I had to go to the roof. Often when we were hopping to different family members, and I was just crying, but I had to hide it because they wouldn't understand why I'm crying. And I didn't want them to think I'm crying because but I just felt so, I'm going to cry.
No, it's sweet.
So overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you can repeat the question also, just like what's the difference between, what do you find the difference between people in Lebanon and South Africa?
I wrote,
Just ask it on your mind.
The difference between people in Lebanon and South Africa.
I almost want to talk more about the similarities. Where I feel, and again, it's hard because you know how diverse South Africa is.
Yeah.
Everywhere is diverse, but like we're diverse. And I want to focus on the positive. I feel like South Africans are friendly too. They're pretty nice to
Very,
you in
very
the
friendly.
street. We're generalizing, but like they're nice and they talk to you and they're friendly. And Lebanese people are like that too. I quickly picked that connection. I think, but at the same time, you can see, obviously one of the biggest differences just being in the country is the crime here is very much felt, and you can feel unsafe.
tense all
You
the
feel
time, yeah.
tense, and it was completely gone in Lebanon.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that, but it was replaced by the feeling of feeling unsafe because we have a colonizing entity next door.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, choose your poison. Do you
Yeah.
want to live? Unfortunately, choose your poison. But
Yeah.
like, I was very hyper aware of the fact that a war could break out. We would hear jets. Remember, this is also pre-October 7th. Jets in the sky, sound barriers would break. I didn't always understand what I was hearing, and I would hear drones. And I didn't always know it until someone else pointed it out.
Is it constant? Is it like a
Not
constant?
constant, but like sometimes you would hear it, and especially more at night if it's quiet, obviously depending
But
on
enough
what
for it
area
to
you're
be
in.
normalized, basically.
Yes.
Like you
yes.
don't, you're
And
not getting a
now-
fright every time you hear it.
No. And now, while there's actual declared war, it's at its peak. Like, you're going to hear it more, the sound barrier is going to break more. But that's something that's like you have to live with. And there's periods where there's none of that and it's quiet and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And then also like skirmishes on the border.
Yeah.
But I particularly, for some reason, went in a period of 4 years where the war started to be waged on not just Lebanon, the whole Levant, for this greater Israel fucking project. Like, and it kind of started when I arrived there, because I know Lebanon's always been unstable and anything can always happen. This whole region is like that.
Yeah.
And it's always up and down. It's
Yeah.
dips. But I somehow came in the time where they started their war on us, but because
Yeah.
war is waged in different ways. It's psychological, it's economic, so everything was leading up to what we're seeing now. And this is why a lot of us, and I can maybe only speak for myself, I'm not shocked by any of this, and
Yeah.
I felt it coming. And I could see that something big was coming. I didn't know all the details. I didn't realize it would maybe be so bad or so extreme. But you could feel it in the air. And people were telling me, wow, we didn't realize life was actually pretty nice prior to, let's say,
Yeah.
end of 2019, beginning 2020.
Yeah. And how do you remain like okay through all of this stuff and through the last year and now most recently? Like, what is it that makes you feel okay or hopeful?
I think so many different things. I think the main thing is just like finding strength in spirituality, being connected to source, being connected to spirit, in whatever way you perceive that to be.
Yeah.
And understanding that the most important things in life are community and care for each other. You have
Yeah.
to lean on each other. But also, humans are tough. Like, we're adaptable.
Yeah.
It's actually surprising how much you could adapt to hardship, but you need some kind
Yeah.
of mental and emotional and spiritual strength to do it.
Yeah. And spirituality, it just means believing in a cause, in a
Something
entity
so much
greater
bigger
than yourself.
you.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know. Sometimes I can't even explain why. I just know we're going to get liberation. I can just feel it. Like, I can just feel it in my bones.
Yeah.
And again, I understood it and knew it more when I was in Lebanon as an adult, because I could see the spirit of the people.
Yeah.
No matter what,
Yeah.
we'll find an alternative. We keep
Yeah.
going. We keep pushing. So you
100%.
can never defeat a people like this,
Yeah.
ever. You can win small victories and battles against them, but you can't defeat them, their spirit
Yeah.
and their humanity, or like a big. You can't win the war.
That was something that Elijah guy that we were watching.
Oh yeah.
He
The
said
analysis
they
guy.
can destroy, but they can't win.
Yes.
And I
if you
really feel that.
you need knowledge also to have hope.
Yeah.
If you understand that, you can see
Yeah.
who's winning, who's losing. You need
Yeah.
some kind of. There's so many different things. You need
Yeah.
some foresight. Foresight, is that the word? You need to be able to look past just what's happening right now and
Yeah.
and the heartbreak of what's happening right now, because it is insanely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But you can't stay in that. Not even the people in Gaza stay in that.
Yeah.
The day after there's a big bombardment and they almost died, or they lost X so-and-so, or they lost their leg, the next day is the next day.
Yeah.
And the bombs stop and life must go on based
Yeah.
on your circumstances. Now I must get up, and now I must make food, and now I must persevere.
Yeah.
Like, this is how, you can't just sit there and give up. And I think some people do. And those are the people, I'm talking outside of the region, those are the people that you shouldn't really be part of the liberation movement. Because to be part of this movement, or to be drawn to like revolutionary spirit and action,
Yeah.
you have to have you have to believe you will win and you will be victorious, and you have to have faith.
And I think that it not only comes from that belief, because there've been a lot of colonized people who attempt liberation and don't get it in its
Yeah.
entirety. And I mean, a lot of people liken Palestine to South Africa, and there's this hope of it becoming South Africa, and I disagree with that. We didn't get access to the resources. We still don't have the land. It can't
Yeah.
be the same situation. Please don't. Please don't go into peace negotiations. But the alternative to that is like Algeria, and there is a chance that you don't get the Algeria version. You don't get the Vietnam version of liberation. You get the South African peace agreement version, sunset clauses.
Yeah.
And but I think like when it comes to this cause, there is this feeling like it's going to end, and it will be like the ultimate liberation, because the interconnectedness of this entity and the fact that it's like, you know, every structure it relies on
like this is not just a fight to
Yeah.
end apartheid, to
No.
end apartheid. It's not just a fight to stop colonialism in your homeland. This is a fight to bring down the empire.
And
It really
because-
is that big.
Yeah, and because it's so reliant on all of these structures, like it not only relies on occupation and subjugation within the occupied territories, but also ensuring that other countries can't implement their free speech laws, because you now have to believe that Zionism is
Right.
anti-Semitic, and all of these ways that they surveil people in other countries, like it spreads. And if you need something to, you know, make it feel like it affects you, then it's definitely that. But I think the interconnectivity of this entity and the fact that it's just everywhere, it will mean that when it collapses, all of those other structures collapse with it,
Yes.
like a house of cards. And so I have a hope in that. But I also recently I've just been having this thought that, I don't know, I went to the march and they were singing. So I don't know if you know the song "Shoot to Kill."
Yeah.
So you know, it was like banned. Well,
Yeah.
they tried to ban it. The Constitutional Court ruled that it was free speech. But the lyrics of the song is, "It's ours, we're taking it," and all these people, they are our own. And like I keep thinking about that. Like
Yeah.
it's ours, we're taking it.
Yeah.
And I think a part of liberation is already believing that it's
I
yours.
also keep thinking about that, because
Yeah.
you were talking about it in the previous podcast,
Yeah.
and it stuck with me also.
Yeah.
And I realized that's literally what people have in their spirit, what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why the resistance is capable
Yeah.
and has been victorious before and will be victorious, because they know there's no doubt that
Mm.
it's ours.
Yeah.
There's no like, you're gonna fool me a little bit.
It can be
okay, maybe you
stolen,
can
but
have
it's
some
not-
of it.
yeah.
Maybe it's yours and mine.
Yeah.
It's mine. You can share it with me if you come
Yeah.
in a peaceful and in a loving way.
Yeah. But stealing it will not make
But
it
it's
yours.
stealing, and also you can't reverse what you've already done. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking earlier, I think I mentioned it a bit to you, like the justice that will come from this comparatively to, you know, who was sort
Yeah.
of trialed and by at the Hague or whatever after World War II and the
Yeah.
atrocities they
Nuremberg
committed.
trials, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be, you can't escape this one if you're on the wrong side, the same way that many escaped after World War II for various reasons. One of them
Yeah.
is because everything is being documented.
Yeah.
And we have social media nowadays, and people
Yeah.
are deliberately archiving and making sure. I'm even on a personal level.
Yeah.
Like all the way in the beginning after October 7th, I went and checked who liked the post of "I stand with Israel," and I
Yeah.
screenshotted a lot of it. I wish I'd screenshotted more, but
Yeah,
I like
good deal.
screenshotted some of it, and I'm like, I will never ever let that go. Like I'm holding cards that I'm gonna whip out.
For real.
I have other things I'm
It's fully
holding.
deserved. One thing that I don't think I said about this when I was in university, but there was this weird phenomenon both at the Nuremberg trials and at the TRC, where the Nuremberg trials were trials that all these Nazi soldiers and Nazis were put through at the end of World War II to come to terms with everything that had happened. The TRC was more nation building, truth and reconciliation. You know, the white man's gonna sit there and tell you why he killed black people, and you must say, "Oh, okay." It was some bullshit. In both instances, it was some bullshit. But with both in the Nuremberg trials and during the TRC, the common excuse that was used was we were at war and we thought it was justified and we didn't know the full extent of what was going on. And in this instance, you don't have that. You don't have that.
They
out.
will try. They
Yeah.
are already saying those things and trying,
Even
but they will
the-
not get away with it.
The,
But
yeah.
we were talking about the rise of BRICS and how that would impact, like, what do you call it?
The-
Reforming, like
yeah.
the UN, which is basically just a tool of imperialism.
Yeah, all
and
of
has
these, like,
been a tool
these
of
international
imperialism.
global structures. They will be.
They won't disappear. They will
reformed.
be reformed because
Yeah.
there's a lot in these institutions that are good and are and when if they're operated correctly they are good, like, but they need to be, and it's happening. If you're paying attention, you can see this whole the 5 countries that hold veto power, 3 of them being fascist
Yeah.
Western countries allied the whole time, basically Zionist,
Yeah.
is unfair and unjust. And fine,
Yeah.
maybe these 3, which is I think America, UK and Germany, fine, maybe you can stay on it, you represent part of the world, but this has to grow. We need to add
Is it
onto
Germany or is it
Is
Russia?
it France?
Could be.
No, Russia's on there, but I'm saying the 3 Western. It's China, Russia, America, UK. Either Germany or France.
They couldn't have done. Germany couldn't have been in the Security Council.
Maybe
Would
it's France.
I mean, Germany is in the Security Council, but damn,
No,
like,
actually, it would
did
make
they
sense.
just add Germany?
They were like, come Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Come be here.
I mean, the head of the EU when it
So
was
ridiculous, it's like funny.
he was a Nazi.
Right.
Scientists in NASA, Nazis.
They all, because that's
NATO,
exactly what I'm saying. They
Nazis.
morphed and into chameleons and they went and they dispersed.
But they actually like
Into different,
saved.
they did,
Nah,
and they shed
literally.
their skin, and that's what they will do again now, and will
Yeah.
try to do again. But this time, we will not let them get away with it
Nah.
the same way, and to
Hard
the same
no.
extent that they got away with it before. There will always be those that slip through the cracks, and that you can't get justice, whatever. But also these people, like the people that are responsible for these kind of atrocities, they always have their people that they throw under the bus.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the face for justice was served, guys. Justice was served. And then
Yeah.
they go behind the scenes and then they change it to something else. I just want a world where that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I will
And
fight
it's-
for that.
It's not
I don't
even,
know how, but I'm gonna fight.
It's not about it's not about retribution or revenge. It's about ensuring that it doesn't happen again. Because I think
That's why. Yeah, that's
the
why it's
way
important.
to defeat this entity is not only to take it out in the sense of the resistance, pushing
Tangible,
them out.
like
Yeah, like a military victory. Like the IDF is now crushed. Like it's not only that, it's not only the end of occupation and the end of apartheid. It's also the idea itself needs to become irrelevant.
Yes.
Like at some point we believed that the sun was rotating around the earth, and we had to push that out
Yes.
as a
We have to contain
irrelevant
it.
idea.
That doesn't mean that there aren't still people that think
Yeah.
the sun is this or the earth is flat, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. So there will still be people that follow these ideologies. But
Yeah.
can you be allowed? Can we live in a world where we don't allow that to fester
Yeah.
to the point that it reaches the highest peaks of power?
Yeah.
If you actually just sit and you actually understand how insane it is that the worst kinds of people, the most inhumane, evil, fascistic people are at the highest levels of power.
Yeah.
Not in every country and not in the whole world, but in the ones that have been
Yeah.
having a lot of control over the whole world, so the economy. This is insane
Yeah.
that something so horrendous has been allowed to fester for so. It's like glorifying. It's like you have a rapist in your community, and instead of ostracizing him or whatever it is, keeping him contained, you go and uplift him. Now he's the mayor.
But that's now become
now
the
he's the
culture.
head of the school. Now he's
That's literally
this is
what it's
literally
become.
how they behave.
Yeah.
And this just shows you that that's because that's really who they are on the inside. That's what they
Yeah.
glorify. That's their culture. That's
Yeah.
that's what they think is okay.
And
I'm
I-
not talking about everyone in the West,
Yeah.
of course, but like that's what they amplify because this is who they are.
Yeah.
And you need to be honest with yourself. This is who
Yeah.
these people are. It's not like they're just indoctrinated. They don't know better.
Yeah.
No, they know better and they like it and they choose it.
One thing that I've been sort of thinking about recently, with the end of Nazi Germany and with the end of apartheid in South Africa, it's like those ideas were not eradicated because we didn't get to a point where we was specific and like blatant about what it was within those ideas that made them so pervasive and dangerous and insidious. I think like with Nazi Germany specifically, it's almost like you don't want to talk about it too much. You just want to say it was bad, it was
Right.
horrible, it was atrocities. Yeah, of course it was. But what made that ideology so consuming to people? What made them believe it so easily? And a little while ago, I think I told you about like the music made by cults and like
Yeah.
that whole obsession. So the obsession started with propaganda and how people believe propaganda, especially in Nazi Germany, Mussolini, and so on. All of those, Mussolini, Hitler, Stalin during that time, and their creation of propaganda. And what I realized, the commonalities between Nazism and Zionism. Zionism, ideologically, theoretically, I think it could be worse.
It is worse.
Because like the idea of Lebensraum, which is living space in German, that was Hitler's idea that the superior race of Germans, they needed to expand, they needed more room. And it wasn't colonial, it was territorial expansion, whereas Zionism is colonial and territorial
Yeah.
expansion. And the justification for Nazism and this idea of supremacy and the supremacy of the German people was like losing World War One, the Treaty of Versailles, and the humiliation because they had to pay reparations essentially for starting that war, I suppose. And there was a lot of like shame. They went into an economic crisis. To be honest, like sometimes I read about it, I'm like, y'all were angry about this. You were angry about this small baby recession. Like, please, this is like, a normal Tuesday in South Africa.
But it's good to point out that like Zionism is worse
Yeah.
than Nazism. And that's not because we're playing the oppression Olympics and being like,
Yeah.
no, this one's worse and my people went through is worse. It's just based on fact.
Yeah.
It's worse. And the fact that like anybody can be a Zionist
Yeah.
across races, across religion, across countries, you
Yeah.
could be attached to this ideology.
And being a Zionist is almost like a safer option. Even if you aren't Jewish or related to it in any way, going, no, I am a Zionist and I stand with Zion. Like Joe Biden
like
saying
you can
he's a
hide
Zionist.
behind.
Yeah, you get the protection of, not being on the other side.
Right.
It's
Of,
like being a safe racist.
yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
that's why it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
It's almost like wolf in sheep's clothing, and that's
Yeah.
the idea of like, if you're racist, be open, be like,
Yeah.
but if you hide and you morph and you this, that's why I think it's also like taken so long and still now a year into genocide for people to grasp
Yeah.
what this is and what it means and the impact that this ideology has had
Yeah.
on the people that take it on,
And
and on everyone else.
The thing about like Nazism that also made it so pervasive was that it came from the victim complex of
Yeah.
having lost World War One and the Treaty of Versailles and so on. And within that instance, it was the belief that we as the German people are superior, and they're all out here against us. So we need to be strong and whatever. We need to restore our military. And in the instance of Zionism, it's the Holocaust happened. So we have not only that justification and the complex that comes, victim complex, sorry about it, that comes from that. But it's also the divine justification that God promised me this land, so God wouldn't mind me doing a genocide because he already said I could have the land. So if I must genocide the people on the land, that's God said.
It's interesting you bring up also that religious aspect, because a lot of people say this is not a religious thing. It's purely to do with colonialism. And that's true. But at the same time, there is a religious aspect to this. And there's an underlying story going on here of a certain group of extremist religious people
Yeah.
hating on another group of religions.
Yeah.
And the thing, it is quite unique because of the history of the Levant and the
Yeah.
history of the region. And I don't think it's enough to just be like, it's a simple story of colonialism. I think that's a good starting point for people to understand, especially if they were indoctrinated to think this is just a simple thing of Jews and Muslims never getting along.
Yeah.
But once you can go past that and understand that, yes, this is the basis of this is
Yeah.
imperialism and colonialism,
Yeah.
you can go further. There's always more to learn and more to
Yeah.
understand.
I
A
think
lot of
it's
this is
Like a
please
good way
elaborate on
to
that.
a way to like summarize it is that it's colonialism, imperialism justified by religion.
Yeah.
And I think it is important to talk about like the religious aspect of it, because it makes it so sinister. You can get away with a lot, like Bob Dylan has the song With God on Our Side, and he talks about like all the wars that have been fought, and all of the Western sides always saying we have God on our side. When they killed the Native Americans, they said we have God on our side. When they like all of these things, it's with God on our side. And I think that's like a very, very strong push for you to do anything. I've heard so many of these like atheistic commentators say, well, yeah, but God promised the Jews this land. And it's like, well, since when do you listen to anything God says? You haven't listened to any of the other things, but you believe this one specific thing.
But also, is your God righteous? Because, and it's also like a stolen thing by colonizers and stuff, but when people have a righteous cause, and it's genuinely rooted sometimes in this, like, the strong belief in God and your righteous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then they steal it.
Yeah.
And they make it like, but God said, but it's like, but your cause is not righteous though.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't.
Also, I'm sorry, but if my God had to tell me, listen, this stuck land, it's yours. However, you have to subjugate all the people on the land.
Yeah.
You have
Who's
to like
that God?
maintain a military occupation.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
This is also the thing.
They twist something so beautiful. They twist the word of God and religion and true faith and spirituality. They twist it and they tarnish
That's
it and they
all-
spit it out and they vomit on it. This is what they do. Everything they touch turns to. Actually, you know Scott Ritter? He's a analysis guy. I don't know. He did such a cool analogy. What was he saying? Isn't there a story of like the people that would touch something and all of it would turn to gold?
Yeah, the
And, like,
Midas touch.
Yes. And then it, like the idea of it seems like, oh wow, you're turning everything to gold and how nice and like gold, but actually you're killing it because everything is now being frozen when you turn to gold.
Yeah.
And
And
this
in the
is what the
story,
empire does. This is how they operate. Everything must become money, gold, but actually you're messing everything up
Yeah.
in the process through your touch. Everywhere they go,
Yeah.
they tarnish.
Yeah.
Everything they touch dies.
Yeah.
And what kind of people are these? What
Yeah.
kind of legacy is this?
Like how ridiculous, like even just these settlers that talk about we want to resettle Gaza. It's like you bombed the whole place. Like it's all
You
destroyed.
killed the animals, the
It's
land.
gonna take 30
you tarnished the
years.
soil through your what do you call it, chemical weapons.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to expand it to Lebanon? Well, you screwed up most of the farmlands in the south through your chemical phosphorus. So I don't understand.
I don't get it.
You want-
even
I
the munitions that were dropped on Gaza. Like there's a lot of ordnance that that haven't exploded. It will take about like 30
Yes.
years to clear all of that.
We still
to
have
clear
from
the rubble from
2006
Gaza.
war.
Yeah. There's so much of that.
But this is the
So go
land you want to
settle.
move your chosen, your God's chosen, Satan's chosen people into.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that they can't hold a single inch of the territory in Gaza.
And-
But we're going to talk about building an apartment on top of the tunnels.
But this
Okay,
is also
go.
why I go back and forth. I'm like, do they really believe, especially now, like a year into the war when they're losing militarily? Do you actually, when are you guys gonna wake up? Or it's probably, the answer is probably that there are some that see it and understand that they've lost but have to continue with this cuck, and others that are like still in some delusional ignorant, like, oh, we came a little bit 2 steps into the south of Lebanon, here's our flag, now
Yeah.
we have to run out
Yeah.
because our
They retreat,
Hizb
like, all the
is
time.
coming. And we were watching last. I love Mahmoud,
Yeah.
the podcast, and he said the price that the terroristic Zionist forces pay for when they entered Lebanon, and then they're trying to take the PR propaganda photo
Yeah.
to post. The price you pay with that is your blood.
Yeah.
You died right after that photo.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
And I'm just wondering, like, how many troops do they have in the Golani Brigade? Because they're dying every day.
How many have they added?
are dying every day.
Are they on there like 6 troop? You know, there's different brigades, battalions. I think they're on there like already. There's 6th one or
Shame.
more than that already. I don't know.
These teenagers,
And they're all like,
these teenage IDF soldiers. So sad that they're dead now, at the age of
an
19.
F. I don't
That's
give an
also
F.
the
Why are you
weird
coming
thing.
into land that's not yours?
Yeah.
Trying to face the strongest non-state
But
army,
have you seen those articles
guerrilla warfare group
Yeah.
in the world?
Have you seen
and
those
you're coming
articles?
in.
where they talk about like, oh, the teenage Israeli soldiers died in the south of
Yeah,
Lebanon?
we're losing our future generation. I'm like, good, lose them.
You shouldn't have been there. You shouldn't have been there. Go to the Psytrance festivals
God,
instead.
what is this meant?
Like, just go chill there. Do your
Go pop a
ketamine.
Molly with
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus.
The thing is like, sometimes I read through the lists of like all the dead soldiers, and it's like sergeant this whatever, colonel whatever, and then he's like 21 years old.
Yeah, like what is the age actually you're supposed to be? What, maybe in your 40s by the time you're a sergeant? What is
Yeah,
that?
you're supposed to you work your way there. You have to.
But they're
have some
God's chosen
experience.
people, so they're like extremely mentally superior.
They are not-
So
they're
even
also-
at
yeah.
19, they're already light years away.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
why they get those positions.
Yeah.
They finished high school at the age of 6. They were
I
that
think-
smart.
I think you become a colonel in the IDF, like if you can put a flag in some sand.
Oh, if you're able to like push it deep.
Yeah,
It has
yeah,
to be,
yeah.
that's the measuring.
If you can like kick an old man
Yo,
and not
that must
feel
be-
anything,
yeah,
that's when you
that's how
become
they
a
measure
sergeant.
it. That's how they measure
I think
it.
that's how it works. Corporal.
Can we get into some news?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
actually wanting to talk and transition into talking about the attempted assassination on Netanyahu, which has come after.
When did you
the
ever think you hear
martyrdom.
those words? I love it.
I know,
Love it.
I know, and it's also something to be said that it came pretty quickly after the martyrdom of
Sinwar.
Yahya Sinwar. May he rest in peace. What a
In
brave,
eternal glory.
yeah, what a brave, beautiful man. All our resistance martyrs, fighters are brave.
Yeah. So the context of Yahya Sinwar, he was elected, democratically elected, the leader of Hamas following the assassination and martyrdom of Ismail Haniyeh. And the thing about him is he's always been on the ground. He was in prison for 23 years during a prisoner exchange deal. He was released, and he's been part of Hamas like for I think like definitely majority of his life, because he
I will
joined when he
never
was a
forget
teenager,
that
I think.
picture he took where he was sitting on that couch
Yeah,
and in the ruins, being like, "Why haven't you targeted me yet?
yeah.
I'm here."
Some more context.
Yeah, so Sinwar was fighting on the ground. So the story that I've gathered now is that the IDF didn't know who was there, who they were fighting, and they were ambushed. And
Yeah, it was by
Sinwar,
chance.
yeah, he threw like 2 grenades, causing them to retreat, and then they brought a tank in, and the tank shelled them.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, the 2 fighters, because he was only with 2 fighters, no bodyguards, nothing of the sort. He was with 2 fighters. The 2 fighters died, and he was injured. And in the video, the drone footage that they posted of his final moments, he's sitting in this house that's been destroyed. It's just rubble everywhere. And when I first watched the video, I didn't even see him.
Yeah,
It-
it's almost like you can't. He's
Yeah.
camouflage.
Yeah. And he was grey,
Yeah.
like the rubble around him. And he's sitting like completely still on this chair. And you see his arm has been blown off. And this drone comes towards him, and he takes like a pole or a piece of wood.
Stick or something.
Yeah,
One
and he
last
throws it.
final blow
Yeah.
at them. What a
And
legend.
it reminded me of what Rifat Al-Arir said in his final interview. He's the poet writer that was killed in Gaza. I don't know. I think he was kind of assassinated. But he was sitting. He was sitting, and he could hear the bombs dropping behind him. And in this interview, he says, "If the most dangerous thing that he has, the most dangerous weapon he has in his house is his pen. But if the Israeli soldiers were to come into his house, he would take the pen and he would throw it at them." And he says, like, this is the feeling of every Palestinian. And watching that video of Sinwar, right till the end, right up until his last breath, he's fighting. And that's like what you were saying earlier about these people being beyond words in
It's
bravery.
like that's what it means to devote your whole life to
Yeah.
a cause, and that's what it takes
Yeah.
to achieve proper victory and liberation. Not some half-ass liberation, not some sugar-coated liberation, not some illusion.
Conviction, true conviction.
Proper, and you need a solid, like, I don't even know, like, you need, these people are made of something. I mean, I'm Lebanese, again, same as Syrian. There's not much difference between Palestinians, Syrians, and Lebanese. We're all one. But even me, being of the blood of these people, I look at these fighters and I'm like in awe, and I can only imagine being that brave.
Yeah.
And so And then, but that's also why the closeness of his assassination, Yahya Sinwar's assassination, compared to now the attempted one of Netanyahu, and you compare, even though Netanyahu hasn't been assassinated yet,
Yeah.
you compare
I think it
Look
was
at
also
that video of him coming out.
Yeah.
He's now talking, and I'm just looking at him, and I'm like, I don't even know. I'm like, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
There's no again. You're like, you're just.
But I think the juxtaposition, I don't know if maybe this was Hezbollah's intent, was to show that juxtaposition.
I do think that was part of the intent.
That Sinwar is sitting there with his arm blown off and he still fights. And Netanyahu, who's likely in a bunker, is coming out here talking about we're gonna get Iran for what they did to my window.
And the last thing he says in that video, it's weird. I only watched the video once because I can't stand his fugly face. But like quickly he says, Are we defeated? Someone asks him or something. Like, are we defeated? Is the war are we gonna stop? And he goes, no. And it's like this quick.
Yeah.
I'm like, stand in front of that camera and say to the camera, no.
Yeah.
He's like, no. And then he like disappears and then the whole video fizzles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't explain it. Like, you look at the two and you're like, ugh. And I want to discuss that either this targeted assassination by Hizb was meant to actually kill him but didn't, or it was meant to not kill him and just be a warning and a message out. I think it's that. I think it wasn't meant to kill him this time. I think it was meant to send a message to the world and to him and to other leaders, and to put Netanyahu now more on his toes and to show.
I think they have intel. He's likely not going to go back to that house. So maybe he's going to a house that they prefer him to be in.
Maybe he'll surprise us and he'll end up being very brave and he'll still be there and be around and surprise us. But that's good because then we can really take him out.
I don't think
so.
At this point, like, I don't want him to be taken out. I want him to be standing there at the end of it.
Suffer.
I want him to see it happen. I want him to see it crumble.
I want him to get.
And I want to go.
The Hague
look at the new Middle East. Look at it.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's gone. Look at the new Silk Road being created.
Where's your fiber
that you
optic
didn't
cables?
want, that you were trying to counter with your stupid road. What was that? The other road that they were trying to trade route. That they were trying to do from India. I think, or something.
Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here?
One thing that I saw happen this week was watching people burn alive at the beginning of the week, and then Sinwar being assassinated.
Yeah.
And at this point, when a leader is assassinated, I don't have any like hesitation about it. I don't have any apprehension or fear. Like, I know this is what's prepared. Like, we already know. He's been living as a martyr. Nasrallah was living as a martyr. Hania was living as a martyr long before they were martyred. And like, I don't worry about the question is always like, who's going to follow, who's going to come next.
Right.
But it isn't a worry or a fear that I have. And I could see this week, like, a lot of people were stressed. Like, what are we gonna do now? Who's gonna lead us? Who's gonna be there?
I think that's one of the most amazing achievements of the resistance. Which I don't know if I'm correct. I think I'm correct to say this was basically start this system of, what do you call it, where one goes out, one clocks in, one goes out, one clocks in, was basically perfected by Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah.
Yes.
And I know that, being Lebanese, so I didn't, even when Sayyid passed and was martyred, which I was like, I cried so much. I was so sad. But I'd never once thought, what now?
Yeah.
I was curious, okay, who would come up now? And the details around his martyrdom and all of that. But I didn't doubt for a minute. Because he always made it a point to say, and we can see it, and if you know the history of the region and the past battles we fought, you know that it's created in a way that it can never be defeated. You have to create it this way because you're dealing with an enemy that wants to kill all the leaders and martyrs all the leaders. Yeah. So it has to be in a way where it always can continue.
It's such a juxtaposition between Western leaders and leaders of the resistance. Call them terrorists all you want, but at the end of the day, when one of them falls, the entire world goes, okay, what's gonna happen next? Even the enemies start to worry, what's gonna happen next? Yeah. And when Joe Biden stepped down because he needed to take more naps every day, like, nobody cared. There wasn't even an election process. When Hania was martyred, the question was, okay, who's going to fill this void now? And there was an election. Yeah. And when Sinwar was elected, it was like, yeah, we're doing this. But compared to Americans, where it's like, oh, Kamala Harris, fine, I guess we'll have her.
I guess.
It's
the
pathetic.
best we have. They don't have
It's
good leaders in
pathetic.
the West. They haven't had for a very, very, very long
No.
time.
And I think like to call leaders of the resistance terrorists and to discard them like that, it's a disservice to yourself first, because you're never gonna know what true leadership is. You must not watch Game of Thrones or Troy or
Fantasy TV.
Lord of the Rings.
Meanwhile, it's happening in real life, but that's where you go to find, the Western people go to find.
Yeah.
But you actually have them in real life.
yeah. Cersei
And
is like
whenever I watch
there
these shows,
right
because
now.
I love fantasy, and I'm a huge
same.
Lord of the Rings fan, and the Rings of Power series, I think season 2 came out, and I've been watching it through this and like relating it to real life. And all
Yeah.
I think about is our people and our real life struggle and our leaders. I
Yeah.
have something to correlate it to in real
Yeah.
life, which I think it makes the show even better.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a blessing because it's real.
Yeah.
It is real that those figures can exist.
Yeah.
Not in a fantasy world kind of way,
People-
but they can exist.
People who are not from the region and don't have the understanding of the history that you do, and have more of like a pessimistic outlook on this, on
Some people even in the region have
Yeah.
a pessimistic view.
what is like the advice, or how would you
Get out the way.
Yeah.
Get out the way. You're
Yeah.
either in it and you hope. It doesn't mean you can't be sad, and it doesn't mean you can't cry, and it doesn't mean you can't mourn, and you can't. Your humanity has to stay intact.
Yeah.
But it has to be an underlying foundation of hope and belief. You have to believe in the resistance, and you have to believe in and different forms of resistance.
Yeah.
Believe in in violent, justified resistance of the axis of resistance,
Yeah.
as well as your whatever you can do as a form of resistance with
Yeah.
and the people's spirit. Believe in the people's spirit. There is no way that they can exterminate all of us.
Yeah.
There is no way. They can keep trying and trying and trying. Like, you need to understand that Israel and the empire behind them have not achieved one objective military
They're
victory.
running out of ammunition though,
Not
while having achieved nothing.
How long can that be sustained? How long can that go on for? The only thing they can do is kill us and kill us and kill
Yeah.
us.
Brute force, it's a finite resource.
And it's disheartening, it is. But you
Yeah.
have to pick yourself up from that.
Yeah.
Always keep that line. Keep that
Yeah.
line. And do what you need to do that. Evolve.
Yeah.
Become more spiritually aware. Connect yourself. Do healing stuff. Well, I don't know
But it
what it
must be-
takes. But stay on that
It mustn't
line.
be individual. It mustn't. I think like. Yeah. One thing that I felt at the beginning of the week, especially watching so many people like burn alive, and watching that video come up over and over and over again on my feed, of this 19-year-old boy with an IV drip. He had just survived being bombed and being pulled out of the rubble, only for him to burn alive
Yeah.
in front of his family, next to his mother. It was horrifying, and I cried like so much over
Yeah.
it, because it was so grueling. And I know people say like, don't be shocked. It's not shock. It's just
You're mourning.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like sometimes you want to switch off those emotions and dissociate, but it's like my dad was saying, you have like an obligation for it to
Yeah.
affect you.
Because otherwise
Yeah.
you lose and that is the ultimate, that's the real wider
Yeah.
thing going on here on a spiritual level. That's what people, when they speak about there's a spiritual warfare, will you lose your humanity in this,
Yeah.
or will you stay in it?
Yeah.
That's your personal fight with yourself and your relationship
Internal
with God, your
jihad.
internal jihad. Are you going to allow yourself to become like
Yeah.
as depraved as them
Yeah.
and lose your humanity, or are you going
Yeah.
yeah
But I really liked it.
all of that.
I liked what my dad said. Like,
Yeah.
you have to allow it to affect you, and your feelings about it, the way you handle it, that's your business.
Yeah.
But you have an obligation to let it affect you.
Yeah.
And what I was sort of feeling at the beginning of the week after watching all of that was like I couldn't articulate where the pain was coming from. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost, why is this
Yeah.
pulling at me so hard? And it's really that like I am because we are, you know, I don't really like the way Ubuntu was changed into like this nation building bullshit. But I think like that's true. I think you do feel it. And this is watching an extermination of a group of our species. You're supposed to react to it. You're supposed to feel something. It's supposed to pull at you. And yeah, I don't think people should run from it. And
Yeah.
when it comes to what's gonna happen with with Sinwar and with his martyrdom, he's become the myth of him has been proven true, and people need to. I think like if there's anything to gain out of it, it's to understand what he was doing in those last moments and the way that he lived his life for the longest time in complete and utter service to the Palestinian cause. And obviously, not everyone is capable of dedicating their lives to it, but it's also about a psychological shift towards it. Do not be investing in any of these like innocuous, simplistic, stupid things in life, but to dedicate yourself to something greater. And that's the spirituality aspect of it. To dedicate yourself to a cause greater than you.
And a bit on that, just quickly on that note, I find myself, I can't be around people that don't understand this.
Yeah.
I can't. And there's so many people that I love and I care for a lot, but I don't really want to be around them at this time because they're not on that path. And maybe I can be around them, but it's for short periods. Like I'd rather be alone. And I'm fortunately loved enough to have people in my life that understand that and are on that path.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that on that note.
Yeah.
Like that's what
Because
I'm going through
there's a
also
lot
on a
of people,
personal level with with my relationships, my friendships, and a lot of times it's not spoken, it's not said to these people. It's just me and my thoughts and what I feel.
And we were kind of talking about this earlier. We were saying that there are different kinds of people within this. There are people who have hope, and that's what they spread, that's what they push. And then there are people who are only in solidarity with the dead bodies and with the humanitarian aspect. And so they only, like seeing the horrors, that's what they push out. That's what they, and I get so irritated with it sometimes. Like there's sometimes, yes, we need to see what the devastation and destruction is. Other times, we can't, when everyone's posting it, you don't have to, you don't have to add to it. You don't have to add to. It's also sometimes for me, it's like, this is the last moments of someone's life.
Yeah, have some respect.
Yeah.
They have some dignity for
but
them.
It's not a point to be made. It's not a point. You can make the point that Zionism is bad and this is what Zionism does and that this entity is evil. You can make those points in other ways, and you have to learn how to make those points, because just reposting someone else's trauma and their devastation, it's not help. Yeah, it's not enough, and it's not helping anyone. No. And if all you do is consume,
and trust me, people are seeing it whether you're reposting it or not.
Yeah. And
you can't escape it. It's all over everything. Maybe if you really isolate it in some kind of algorithm, fine. But I'm saying if you've exposed yourself a bit, you're seeing it.
Yeah.
You're seeing it.
And this conversation also about like we have to bear witness. Yes, but not just that. And being witness doesn't mean that you just consume all of the horrors of what's going on, because then that sits on you and makes you.
And that's why some people run away from this and they don't want to, because they think that's what they need to do and what they're going. There's a whole other side.
No, you don't have to see.
You don't have to. I'm not waking up every day and looking at all the dead children.
Yeah.
Yes, we do bear witness to some extent, but there's a whole other. Yeah.
So,
but also,
can I just say that right now in SA, conversation is dominated by Chris Brown coming out.
Oh yeah, I saw
that.
And
it's possible for an algorithm to be fed for that being like the main problem. And I don't want to undermine whatever the issue is with it. But do you think like people are focused on Carling Cup level, or like, I'm trying to think of a term, like Krillin level problems, or even
first world problems?
Is that I don't know if that's look, it is an important conversation, but like, is that the conversation?
We shouldn't be rallying. I don't think it's necessary to be advocating for. I mean, I don't think that him coming here is a good thing. I don't like him coming here. I don't like him performing, and I would certainly boycott. Not that I'd ever be interested in his shit in the first place, but and I would advocate for a boycott. However, a millionaire performing in South Africa, it's unimportant at the end of the day. And also, like, gender-based violence rates in this country are insane. You could rally for that. You know, you could be advocating hardcore for that, and maybe people should divert their attention away from celebrities and their bullshit, because ultimately, like, if he continues to be an abusive person, it's not going to change the policies of South Africa. And once he leaves South Africa, do we stop having the conversation about gender-based violence when it's still affecting women in our country? He if he abuses a woman in our country, cool. But if he leaves, then do we just give up on it because he's gone now? Like, nah.
Yeah, we're focusing on the wrong problem.
We're focusing on gender-based violence while an abuser is in the country, but then when he leaves,
We're not.
Yeah.
it's
Go
not
back to
making
normal.
sense. It's not making sense.
I just think we're attacking it incorrectly.
Yeah. But there's so many distractions, and there's so many attempts to distract you in like just every way possible. And if it's not
Especially
distractions,
through celebrities. And
yeah.
Hollywood.
I mean, like, I'll be going through Instagram looking at the most horrific shit, and then it will just be Sabrina Carpenter in between.
The one
Oh my
that they're
god,
pushing now.
Sabrina Carpenter, she put lipstick on
She's
her
so
thigh.
funny.
She has a kiss on her thigh, but then it moved to here. So what does that
She's
mean?
so sarcastic in her lyrics. Ha ha.
No, it's like, oh, Taylor Swift said this lyric, and I think it means this. Who cares? Who cares? Who
Oh
cares?
my god.
It's so disappointing. Like, during the 1960s, it was Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Dore and Bob Dylan, and there was Janis Joplin. Everyone was out here. Johnny Cash, like, people were out here making music and doing and it's not like, I mean, Marvin Gaye, he went from Let's Get It On to What's Going On, which was a song about the Vietnam War, you know? And that's what the shit was about. And it's because, like, life has always been about politics. It's always been about politics.
Political.
It's not that John Lennon just decided to sing, you know, Give Peace a Chance, Imagine, because he had this, like, you know, he wasn't always
Everything is
singing about.
political, and not because we want it to be, or because we are geopolitical, we're interested in geopolitics. It's because the ones at the top made it all political. They politicized everything. Politics affects every little aspect of your life. Everything can be traced back to imperialist political interests
We lived in,
and
like,
colonization.
a nice little northern European country where the government does everything that you need and everything's fine. Then your life, you could maybe say that the personal is not political. But while you live under an oppressive structure, and that oppressive structure it's not only in the Levant, it's global.
Spread out. It's like an octopus tentacles.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Literally. But they're gonna say you're anti-Semitic for that because that was allegedly. I know.
Octopuses now.
No, an
Yes.
octopus during the like Nazi Germany, they said the octopus was like the Jewish community because they had tentacles out everywhere. But it's wild because Netanyahu now says that Iran is the octopus,
Okay. Like they steal everything.
the
That's what I'm saying. They
tentacle
steal
of
everywhere.
evil. So annoying. Octopus are actually really great. I
love
love them all.
them. They're sentient beings.
For
I refuse
real.
to eat them.
For real.
I think they're really cute.
Wait, I can't remember what I was saying before
What are we
octopus.
talking about? Oh, everything being political.
Oh yeah, like
That's what people want.
Like, I don't give an F about Chris Brown, but I do think that it's good that maybe something like him coming here is sparking
Yeah.
that conversation. Because obviously, you can only fix something once you start talking about it and you start tackling it and you start bringing it to the forefront of life and conversation. That's the only way you can tackle something and start the attempt of fixing it
Yeah.
or changing things for the better.
And I think a big element of education at this point and like seeking knowledge is to ask yourself and to admit to yourself like where you think you may have gone wrong and where you think you have like a prejudice or where you aren't 100% sure of something. And lean into that and go towards that, because I see a lot of people that are pro-Palestine, but they don't read anything, they don't know anything, they don't follow, they just follow what happens on Instagram, what the breaking news stories are, but never the actual political situation of it. And I think that will bring you down. It will make you only feel the worst
That's
of
what
it.
I'm saying. With knowledge comes some kind of hopefulness.
Yeah.
When you understand,
Yeah.
you can
But it's like-
see the bigger picture and understand that we are winning.
Yeah.
And by we,
definitely.
I mean like the indigenous, the ones that have been held down, the
Yeah.
oppressed of the world. We will defeat this empire.
Yeah, definitely. But we was kind of speaking about this yesterday, that people don't want to be wrong anymore. They don't want to admit to being wrong, and they don't even want to admit to being lacking in any way. And so they would rather sort of like double down on a point
Yeah.
rather than go, yeah, I don't know about that. Let me
Rather
research
than
it.
face themselves.
And I think like education and and learning, it is a massive, like being curious is so important, and it's so important to like a political life and forming a political identity, because you really have to read. And I'm not saying that you have to go and like read, decolonialist literature or anything, but it is important to gain like a better understanding of what it is. And like the more you read like Che Guevara, Kwame Ture, Franz Fanon, like you understand how deeply it's entrenched in like every element
Every aspect,
of your life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in like teaching, I would usually say that, and this is just general education speaking, the firming of knowledge that takes place in reading compared to other forms of like
Consumption.
yes,
Media.
it's much higher, and the retention is higher, and the impact is more holistic. It filters
Yeah.
into all of your other thought facets. Ikra.
That being said, though, we live in a time where there are amazing independent
Yeah.
analysis, podcasts, journalists, and sometimes, especially if you're new to these topics, it's hard to sift through in the beginning and be like, what is truth? Who's actually independent? Who's not? Then come to someone that you see seems to understand things, and maybe you admire them. Be like, what do you listen to? Can you
Yeah.
recommend things to me? What
Yeah.
do you think of this podcast? Is this actually an independent news channel?
Maybe we should
Be
shout
curious,
out. Do you want to
ask
shout out some
questions.
people?
I would love to shout out on YouTube Mahmoud OD. I
OD.
think.
Yeah.
He's Palestinian, but I think he lives in the UK. I'm not sure.
He's dope.
Amazing analysis. One of the first people I started listening to, though, was
Live streams every night.
a live stream
So
every night,
We go to bed
sometimes
watching
twice. We fall asleep.
it. We don't share a bed. We just in our independent.
Yeah, we
beds.
don't. It's
In
not
our
like we go to
independent-
bed.
In our
together.
independent
It's-
states,
it's
also 'cause
separate
you live
houses.
You live so far away. You live in Joburg, basically.
I don't know.
Anything after Canal Walk is Joburg.
Anything after Canal is Joburg. She's
Yeah.
such a Cape Town. Mohammed, but one of the first people I started listening to, and he's been like being censored left, right, and center, and he was detained at the airport, was Richard Medhurst, who's Syrian. He's also a very clear talker. And then I love Kevork. But we can write this obviously in
Yeah.
the script.
think for-
Kevork Almasian is a Syrian Armenian.
Yeah, I
People
love
from the
him.
region, but people that are
love him.
unbiased.
Yeah.
People that are not funded by anyone. You have to double check.
Khadi Francis.
Khadi Francis,
Gee.
what an amazing
She's a
Lebanese
G.
journalist. But I'm thinking of like channels that like people can watch. Khadi doesn't have a channel.
Yeah. For the military side of things, Scott Ritter, John Mearsheimer, kind of more for the
There's
political.
what's his name that has all of them on? It's so funny.
Danny-
Judge Napolitana.
Oh yeah.
He's an ex-judge.
And
They're
there's that other guy,
American.
Danny.
Haifong.
Yeah.
Is he Vietnamese, American Vietnamese?
I'm not sure.
And what I also learned when I was like learning more and discovering these people, it's good to have people from different parts of the world, especially people from the global south, like someone
Yes.
from West Asia, someone from China, someone from
Yes.
Africa, someone like. It's good to spread out your knowledge, and what you learn from that is there's a similarity and a string.
Yeah.
They seem to be all saying the same thing, but in a different context.
Not people living in America that are also whatever, like people from the region that have lived in the
Yeah.
region. Yeah.
that have a connection to the region.
Yeah.
And even with these people, you don't have to go and take everything that they say as
Yeah.
fact. Go and also research, and if you watch all these different ones, you can connect the dots and kind of see like, okay, this one said this, this one has said this. So there's obviously two opinions on this. Why
I
must I
think
explain how to think? Now I'm explaining how to watch things and to
I think breakthrough news is also
how to be
pretty
a
good.
critical thinker. I'm explaining. Breakthrough
Yeah.
news is amazing. Oh, there's so much I can't even think now.
Yeah, we can
What
just
else do I
add all
listen
of
to a
them
lot?
in
Yeah, we'll add
description.
a couple.
Thank you,
You're
Sana.
welcome. Thank you for having
Appreciate
me.
your time
This was really nice.
and your
I'll come
genius.
again.